So thanks everybody for joining us. We track a lot of sectors within entrepreneurship. We speak to founders, and a lot of them are consumer internet space. Many of them are building bigger businesses in the internet space. But we also came across some very passionate founders who were trying to build something in the hardware space, and they were very few, but they were so convincing in what they were building that we thought this is one space that needs more curation and more recognition, and so that more, we have more founders joining in the space, trying to build something. We started talking to lots of people, and that's how we reached to all of you to start a community of hardware startups and founders, so that we enable exchange of ideas. Hopefully some of you will make connections, find co-founders, early staff, mentoring, whatever it takes. That is our job. That is how far we can go. And that's the idea why we are all sitting here. I have Manish from Let's Venture. That was itself quite a startup that disrupted the whole angel investing space. But more importantly, I believe his first job was in hardware, and he was involved in building a hardware product a couple of decades ago.
Ever since, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. We have Tarun of Ather Energy, and Tarun, we all have heard about Ather recently. IIT Madras and Sai of Teewe. Then we have Rohan of Motioning, another name that we are familiar with. Then I was wondering what really happened to Motioning. And so happy that you could make it. If I could start, Manish, with you. From what you have seen in the hardware space before and now, what has changed? Do you also feel there is kind of a tipping point? And then we can go to this.
So, maybe a slight longish comment on this.
3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay? Not like that. So I came out of IIT back in '92, and I was very adamant that I'm going to do hardware design. In fact, my ETtech project was in hardware, and I got a lot of software jobs, including Infosys. But I said, no, I'm going to do a hardware thing, and that I found an opportunity in Tata Elxsi. And we happened to get a project from Indian Army to design the first GPS. So that was my sort of foray into commercial hardware, if you will. And it was like, you won't believe it was a 2 kg pack. Right, today GPS on your watch, but it was a 2 kg pack which could withstand all the requirements that they had given us. What has changed? I did that for a couple of years, and that was a very big turning point in my career, because as adamant I was that I will do hardware only, then I said, okay, I'm not going to do hardware, because it was so tough to do that hardware in those 2 years. You designed a board, you're sitting in your office for 3 months, waiting for the boards to come in from Singapore or wherever. Or there used to be a factory in Mysore, I remember. We used to go there and get these things. So let me fast forward then. I was also one of the initial members in ETM, and we were doing this lot of DSP technology. So my group used to do a lot of full multimedia systems, which included hardware. And I saw a change. This was almost over a decade, where in my office, sitting here, I could make products which were not finished products, but they were well-engineered products which customers used to come, license, and take home, and then make their products. These products were still done outside here. Then came one more phase, which was probably the best product I have done in my career so far, which is called Slimbox. It was a Silicon Valley company and video streaming device, and I managed the R&D over there. So again, India has a lot of talent to develop really high, very, very high-end internals of the product, if I can say that. Right? So the entire Slimbox art was developed here in Bangalore. But when it comes to creating a product design which can really fire up the market's imagination in terms of design, and that part I'm still not seeing getting done in India. So in short, I think over years what I'm seeing today is there are a lot of entrepreneurs doing some great stuff, and they are able to do the harder part. But when it comes to consumer electronic products, it may be different for something like Ether and all that. But when it comes to doing consumer product which can go on the shelf, B2C product, you need superior design and ability to prototype quicker, to be able to manufacture them at scale with the right elements, texture and all that stuff. That still is outside.
Good point. I'll go back to Kris after I've captured what's happening now. What's the Ather story like? I mean, how was it? I mean, of course now you've been news and all that, but it doesn't look like it was that easy coming this far. So what really took? I mean, what did you do initially, early? How was it building?
Both me and my co-founder Swapnil, we have been building products since our second year at IIT. So we had a 5-year course. So we spent like the last 4 years of college, we built 3-4 products. We probably would have built more than a dozen prototypes, and that's what we really love, like building stuff. We build construction equipments, we build engines, we like literally prototyped entire functional engines, 2-cylinder, 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder, just the two of us for the most part. Then we built other like manipulators and stuff. So at the root, we had a lot of respect for building, and that's why we felt the most value was created if you build a product. We've always had this belief that if you build stuff, you can create a huge amount of impact. Plus, just due to the sheer amount of how hard it is, if you get over that step, the amount of technical moat that you create around you, the amount of competent moat that you create around you is very strong. Just Manish was just saying a couple of things. It's the manufacturing still doesn't happen in India. The great design still doesn't happen in India, and prototyping is really hard to do in India. So some of the things have changed. Manufacturing never happens in India, but really the entire world's manufacturing happens in China. So right, you don't actually need the manufacturing to happen in India. In our case, actually, it's different. We have a fairly strong industry already to bank over. But even if, for example, India was no automotive hub, it would have made zero difference. In fact, we would have probably kept our costs lower had we been completely manufacturing in China. When everybody's manufacturing in China and you do your design in India instead of sitting in Silicon Valley, and if you can hire people as what you would have otherwise had in Silicon Valley, then your costs are going to be lower actually designing in India. Right? Second, with prototyping, our experience maybe that's a little colored because we have spent so much time prototyping. We always knew where to get stuff done. Where you get your milling done, where you get your casting done, where you get your laser cutting done. Which processes to use, what is it going to cost. That's obviously a big difference. If you haven't had that experience, starting in a hardware setup would always seem very hard. Oh God, how am I going to get that ever translated from design to prototype, and how much is going to cost, how much time is going to take. We had spent enough doing that, so we sort of knew that. And my opinion there is that now, from whatever we need to do, at least at the vehicle level in India for Ather, everything gets done as fast as we would probably want it to be. PCB design comes out in 4 days. We have a design here. You give it on Monday, Friday you have finished component ready in your lab. We probably have on the 10th or 12th version of most of our codes right now. Or this is the last 6 months. So you can even see, right, it's happening pretty fast. So my sense is things have started changing quite fast over the last 6-7 years.
What's the notion story?
So it's a long story, and our journey has been exciting and disappointing and exciting. So it's a roller coaster for us. We started in 2009, and when we started in 2009, we had already invested 5 years of research and development in designing the tablet. When we are talking about tablet, we are talking about actually designing capacitive touch panels, actually designing lithium polymer ions, actually designing world's first SoC with Tegra. So there are a lot of stuff which had to be done from scratch. Now, after 2011, all of that has commoditized. Anyone can go and pick any processor and start up. But that's the kind of time and energy which had gone in. 2009, 10 and 11, and that was the time when it was really bad for hardware startups in India. It was very difficult for us to go and talk to an VC. When we'll go with this, they'll ask us, why are you even doing this? When you try and explain this is a tablet, they try to open it, thinking it's some sort of a network. So we had gone through those phases, and then we decided that if it is tough, why should we just break our head and actually getting to raise investments? So we actually started focusing more on business and sales, and we have not raised any investment since when we started, and today we are a profitable company. We are, in fact, in two-in-one section where we launched our devices recently in last September. We are number one in India. We are doing the largest volume and largest, in fact, market share in all the two-in-one, including MNCs. So last 9 months have been really good for us.
I see stories of hope. What is it like for you?
So we are out and out consumer electronics company. So I'll restrain my answer more so to consumer electronics. So I think the hardest proposition in consumer electronics today is taking it from prototype to mass production. Prototyping anything is super easy in hardware, especially in consumer electronics. Let me limit my answer to consumer. Obviously, when you're building a motorcycle, prototyping is very hard. And I'm not referring to that. But if you're building, say, a device for people to use, it's very easy. I'll give you a small answer. Why is it easy also? Even in the software world, today most of software development is API driven, right? Software development today, most of it is actually API driven. Like, you don't redo a lot of things what others have already done. So even in hardware, right? If you were to draw an analogy, there's so many things available like Raspberry Pi, like Arduino, and all sorts of things, right? When you're prototyping, is just putting the stuff together and trying to get a point across. That part is super easy. The real hard part, I think Rohan will also agree with me there, is taking that prototype to mass production. I kind of also disagree with Manish on the fact of design. I think there are good enough design jobs in India. It's not a problem. And Rohan is the standing beacon of light for design, at least in hardware. I mean, his first tablet was very good. So I think the hardest problem in India is taking that prototype to mass production. And there are enough facilities in India even to do that prototyping. Even if you want to go full-fledged prototyping, there are good enough facilities in India. In fact, there's a facility in Bangalore itself. In fact, we were actually just talking about that today in the morning. There is a facility in Bangalore itself. In fact, there's a website, what is Bangalore ITBT, right? ITBT. Yeah, this Bangalore ITBT, just go to that. It is an initiative by government of Karnataka. Their job is to enable hardware companies to do better prototyping. And it's pay as you go. It's like you go anywhere, pay for an hour, like good old internet cafes, something like that. Pay, get your stuff done and get out.
Kris, do some of these challenges that we're discussing remind you of any ways about the early software industry, firstly? And secondly, there are also stories of, things are better than before now, but there are challenges. So what is your 32,000 feet view? Because you have this newfound passion for hardware is what I think.
Actually, Infosys also did a hardware product. Nobody knows about it because we withdrew from that space very early on. In 1985, we developed a replacement for the telex machine using a PC.
Wow.
Electronic telex machine. And we also developed store and forward message switches for post and telegraph. For rerouting telexes and telegrams and things like that. In fact, it was in use till recently. When recently the announcement came, the last telegram was sent. Those telegrams were routed by switches that we had developed in 1987, 89 time frame. But we withdrew from that space in 89, 90. We sold that business to a private company. Because we felt that it was challenging to sell something in India in the hardware space, especially if the customer is government.
Last part doesn't change.
Exactly. So if I look at a common thread here, I think we have the talent, we have the capability, we have now the infrastructure that is available. We have people who have done it, who have produced products, even created manufacturing facilities maybe, but that probably is not required, as somebody said. No, the entire world manufactures in China, so if you have a good product, we can get it manufactured somewhere else and bring it back. If it's cheaper, maybe that's what makes sense. So to me, the challenges are how do you get more people excited to get into this field, because everybody is excited to start the next e-commerce company, next consumer internet company. That's what people are interested in doing. Maybe that's because of the success of the IT services industry in India, etc. But that's where the students are more interested in going, and maybe there are some stories about how difficult it is to do a hardware startup. Right? Maybe we need to change that narrative also. We need to make heroes of some of these people. We need to showcase some of these companies. So that the number of people coming in will have to increase. Number of people who are trained, in doing hardcore hardware stuff will have to be improved and increased. Many a time, if you go beyond the IITs, probably they don't even have good laboratories, good fabrication places and things like that. If a student wants to try something, there isn't a facility that's available in the college. So they'll have to go elsewhere or settle for doing something in embedded system software and things like that. They'll take a off-the-shelf board and then write some software and maybe do some tinkering, creating some peripheral with that, etc. They will not do real hardcore hardware design and things like that. So starting from there, we need to get more venture funding into this space, because again, they go in waves, right? Right now everybody is focused on the whole digital consumer space. Two, we need to look at who are the potential customers and what is their buying pattern. So if there is a tablet which is coming, it's an Android tablet from anywhere else in the world but India, maybe people will easily buy it. Actually, if it's made in India, there's a question mark. That brand is still not there. To government procurement. Government is one of the largest buyers actually. So we have to look at entire value chain, because I met somebody today who had developed something which competes extremely well with the best, I think an encryption machine or something like that. It's for wireless. And he said, when he demonstrated this machine to the relevant people, they said, we will pay you 25% of what an imported machine would cost, because it's made in India. He said, why? This is as good as anything else coming anywhere from the world, and why are you paying me only 20%? It doesn't make sense, right? So we have to look at every one of these, value chain elements and see what we need to do. Because unless you look at end to end, you will not fix the problem. You will fix part of the problem. So, as somebody said, we have now prototyping capabilities, we have design capabilities, we have some labs, etc. So some parts are getting fixed, but the entire value chain has to be fixed to increase the number of people, the number of startups, the number of companies, and world-class products coming out of India. Unless you hit scale, you will not get world-class products coming out of India. You will have subscale. And with subscale, you can't compete on price globally.
One question I have for the three entrepreneurs here in this space is that these are very slow burn, takes time. Now, these are some of the perceptions, right? You can say I'm wrong. Take Roshan's example for that. So if I want to think of a hardware startup or hardware idea, are there problems out there that, how do you go about thinking that, okay, let's make this? So how do you identify those ideas? What are some of those ideas if somebody wants to build a hardware startup that are there to be, done? I mean, there is this number about, what is that? Is it electronics import will surpass the oil bill by 2020? So there are those opportunities people talk about, but they're very vague. You don't know what numbers those really mean, 400 billion and all that. But in terms of realistic thing, things that could be built for a market like India? What are they, and how did you go about identifying your idea and you want to do this? Short answers. Thank you.
Okay, so I would say that it's not a very good idea, especially when you're starting up, and if you're especially a first-time entrepreneur, to take this high-level view and identify an opportunity from there. That oh, the electronics bill is going to exceed the petrol bill, so let's look at doing something in the electronics space. Never works. It's probably best to go from bottoms up. So the way we looked at it was, I'm a big two-wheeler rider. I've been riding scooters since I was not legally allowed to ride a scooter. Big fan of it. Hated bikes, especially the geared ones. Just because I filed a patent, I went out and started speaking to a lot of customers. That's when it was very clear. These guys were big time evangelists of electric vehicles. They really loved the concept, but they hated the products right now out there. Now, a couple of things fell in place. A, you don't have a world-class company making any electric vehicles in India right now. Right? You don't have a Honda selling electric vehicles in India. If a Honda is selling electric scooters in India, I think it's fair game to say that either technology is not involved, or like they're going to solve this before you can get your act together. B, the technology was new, so it makes a lot of sense for a startup to enter a space where they can have a disproportionate amount of impact for the amount of resources they put in. If you were to build, for example, an internal combustion vehicle, a team of 40-50 is going to take you nowhere. But a team of 40-50 is probably interesting enough to get an electric vehicle out there. Third, honestly, we never worried about what is the market size going to be. While we still don't have validation for it, we still don't care about it. The point is, we are building something that everyone in the team absolutely loves to use. They would just give a pre-order. They would just buy it today if it was available. So in design, there's this concept that don't fall into the trap of thinking from what you want. Have empathy and think from the perspective of the customer. I think that's a pretty bozo mentality. You need to be designing something that you first want. Like you absolutely need this item. That probably gives you the most amount of confidence or most amount of motivation to build it. So that was true for us. Most of us wanted to build it. Most of us wanted to own it. So good enough. We don't know if the market is 5,000, 50,000, 1 lakh strong. It's definitely 20, 30 people strong. Let's build for ourselves first. We'll probably know going outside if we did the right thing or not. But I think it's important to start from there. Otherwise, the journey is long, and somewhere along the way, you will probably start losing motivation.
So everything what he said, function of what everything he said, and the only thing I add on that is that even for us that was true actually. We started with a niche. In hardware, there's no way you can start mass scale. We started with a niche. Our thing was I have lots of stuff lying on my laptop. I want to watch it on the TV, and I'll make this device. It was as simple as that. But one thing that hardware you have to keep in account is that you will take half a year or a year to actually finally ship your product from the time you actually think about it. So you need to just ensure that by the time you ship your product, you have those 50 or 100 people who are willing to buy that product, still equally willing to buy that product. That's the most important thing. And for us, that worked out.
The total industry is a function of two things. First is that unlike software, there's no control C, control V. You can't just search online that how it's done, copy it, paste it. That's not going to work. You have to be hands-on in everything you're doing in hardware, right? From machining it to actually making a PCB to actually figuring out that battery actually discharges to actually doing Hall tests to age your device 2 years and 2 weeks to figure out what components are going to fail, right? So we do not have those industry experts who you can actually go and talk to. Since you do not have that, no one is going to tell me that, okay, if you want to do Hall tests, this is how it's done. This is done in Bangalore. And if you have those people are either in Silicon Valley or maybe in the VC community directly, right? So if you do not have funds, you don't have access to those guys. So that's the first part. And the second part, which I feel is the biggest drawback of this country, is that we do not invest in fundamentals. We do not have a language of our own. I'm not communicating in a language of this country. We do not have our own software language, our own hardware, our own IP on any of. Maybe Infosys will have that because they have worked for the last 20 years. But the technology which is there in consumer electronics, we don't see it there, right? So we do not have any example of Microsoft, Google, or Oracle coming out from this country. What that does is, like, for example, these guys are making electric vehicles, right? Now, if you have another startup actually making electric motors, you can imagine how many electric bike companies they can start inspiring on, right? If you have someone who actually makes a processor, let's say not even a processor which competes with Intel, let's say a good camera processor. Then we have so many different hero kind of companies coming out from India doing high definition photography. So the country, the government as an entity, they should actually invest in these fundamentals. How do we actually get these fundamentals up? If these things are there already available in India, we'll see startups actually coming out all around.
I wanted to add one point here to your question of what should you build on, right? Actually, I end up meeting quite a few hardware entrepreneurs who do hardware products on it. And there is absolutely no dearth of people doing stuff. So you're not constrained by, okay, let's have more people doing stuff. I mean, there are enough people doing stuff. There are few constraints in the ecosystem. One is what she talked about, is that it's awfully hard to take a prototype. It is becoming easy to do prototype, especially with 3D printing. I have seen a lot of startups doing quick this thing and getting off the game. But take a prototype to the finished product, there's a gap. Second is funding gap is really massive in the hardware space. In fact, I'm looking at 2 startups where I'm very interested in supporting them. But to figure out a good round for them and get some other mind share from other angels to support that round is not easy.
So how would you evaluate a hardware investment thesis? I mean, what would you look for if you want to back? If anybody wants to pitch to you, then what will it take?
Yeah, I hear what everybody's saying, they're passionate about what they do, which is very, very good. But in order to get funding, and when the VCs have multiple options and choices, they will look at one that gets the maximum returns, one that scales up rapidly, one that has a large market and things like that. So, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a startup, yes, you can take something that you're passionate about and go about it. Funding is going to be difficult. But if you take a space where significant opportunity, growth is there, market size is very large, probably funding is easier. And that's how ABC would evaluate. They will have some thesis that this is the space that is going to drive the economy in the next 3 years, 5 years. Hence, we will start a fund focused on that. We will have people specialized in that, and that's the company I will go after and fund. So you have to understand that and then figure out which space you want to work in. There is nothing wrong in creating a company that's profitable, and you don't have to go for VC funding. But if you go for VC funding, then you need to understand the realities of VC funding, what they look for and how they would fund a company and things like that.
Tarun, we have been writing a lot about your fund. I'm not sure if we have asked you this question. How were your first pitches? How many pitches did you have to make before you actually landed funding? And how was that experience all about? What were some of the top questions that you were asked?
So we started fundraising at pretty much the wrong time when we had an absolutely bad product and we only had 2 people in the team. And our pitch really hadn't changed. Like the pitch what we have today was the same pitch what we had 2 years back. Back in 2013, mid-2013, this is 2 of us, not a company registered, and our pitch was that we'll start an electric vehicle company in India and the target is 1 million vehicles. So it's very hard, I totally agree with it. It's very hard to convince anybody to part money with that sort of pitch, especially a VC. And we went to a bunch of VCs at that point, so big mistake, wasted a lot of time. So the pitches were hard, and the biggest problem was that we could not convince most people that you could even build a prototype. Forget about scaling up. So the initial questions, and a lot of people would write it down that, okay, you can't build even the prototype, which would make sense here. Yes, the next big question sorry, I was just saying, that the market opportunity is not there. So the standard, due diligence that would happen is, okay, you are saying you want to sell a lot of vehicles, the 2-wheeler market is big, but let's be realistic, the electric vehicle market right now in the country annually is 10,000 vehicles. So what space are we talking about? Like how much will you grow it by for it to be interesting? Yes, we'll have to talk about 125x, 125% growth annually over the next decade for this to be interesting for us, right? So we just hung on to a point that we don't think that's how it's going to work out. You will not grow that way, And we're not talking about the electric vehicle market that exists today. We're not trying to compete with any of those guys. We're trying to build something which will legitimately replace petrol vehicles today. And we're not trying to be niche guy. We're not trying to be the Harley Davidson of scooters. That makes no sense. We're trying to replace a Honda Activa. Period. Like that's the pitch. We're expensive today, we get it, but we have a very clear path on how to reduce the prices. We'll have to hit scale, but we'll do it. It will probably take 6, 7 years, 8 years. So that took a lot of time. So the only people that we found who were interested were people who did not know a lot about the sector, did not really know how tough manufacturing is. And honestly, the reason we ever managed anything was because we were pretty stupid. We had no idea about what the timelines are actually going to be like. The difference of that is if we actually knew how long it's going to take, we would never had the courage to actually follow. If we actually knew that taking this out of the market is going to take 3 years, we'd have probably given up in the first day itself. Because 3 years, no probability of funding, getting a team hard, we'd probably given up. So we always thought it was going to take 6 months, then we thought it was going to take 1 year, then 18 months, then 24 months. At some point in the line, we just started giving buffer. But internal timelines were pretty aggressive, but we started putting a buffer. So we don't miss 6 months. So yeah, we basically found people who trusted the larger opportunity and who started to believe that the pieces will fall together and our price predictions in the future can hold true if we meet our targets. So people who more or less basically believe in us rather than what we are doing right now.
The long gestation times, right? I mean, patient capital, whatever you call it. So how about getting talent to work with you? And that also a challenge because today they could go and work anywhere.
No, I have a very straightforward answer to that. I think Tarun also has one, but talent works in 2 ways. There's a talent you can always hire with money, but there is a certain set of talent that wants to solve really crazy problems.
Yeah.
And when you pitch a good problem, right, I'm pretty sure the talent that is good enough to solve that problem will raise their hand.
Is it better than pitching to a VC?
Actually, let me tell you, for me guys,
It actually was the other way around.
Yeah.
Those guys find you.
yeah, those guys find us. It was so easy for me to hire folks like in my team for hardware, and then most of my other colleagues were started software companies.
So the filter there is far more stricter. You probably will meet like 200 people working in engineering, core stuff, and only like one of them you'll find interesting, like continue the conversation with, especially if you're going for proper hardware design. And even electronics not embedded, like literally hardware design. But if you find them, these are like so desperate, there's nothing out for them to work on. There's like literally nothing. You go pick up an engineer right now working in IT, and if he's working on a Formula race car, they would be from the most aggressive, passionate people out there. And you tell them, they're 3rd year, 4th year, so what plans after this? Boss, no idea. Like, really no idea, McKinsey maybe. So you would tell them, hey, why don't you join us? You're building cars today, race cars, performance vehicles, come build vehicles with us. We are going to be building vehicles for the next 2 decades. Easy hire, very easy hire. If the guy is passionate enough, like immediate sold. Like no discussion of salary, no discussion of anything. Like immediate jump in. I'll give you an example. Until 6 months back, I was doing all the HR, accounts, all of that in the company. So I would miss a lot of stuff. So we had a guy, and obviously forget about giving him an offer letter. I did no paperwork, and forgot to add his account. So like 2 months later, he's like, Tarun salary. बोला क्या salary? कल दिया था salary transfer हो. नहीं Tarun salary मिला ही नहीं. Last month का salary नहीं आया. नहीं 2 महीने से salary नहीं आया ही नहीं है salary. So I just thought I'll remind you. Guys are passionate enough in this field.
So is this fine? Before I ask the final question, so are we saying that we need maverick investors, who would act like one of these employees, right? Who would bet on you? Of course, returns are important. Scale is important. But then ecosystems also need those investors who will not spend so much of time thinking, about those questions. I mean, I'm not sure how much you think of Anderson Hours and others, but whatever little I have read, some of the bets that they take seem to fit in this maverick kind of. How's been that for you?
I believe more than VCs, we need Elon Musk in India. We need one startup guy on the hardware gets it right every time he
Or gets it wrong.
He also took initial 6-7 years. He was not doing very well, right? But after a while, he started doing everything, and he was able to convince one guy after the other. See, hardware, as compared to software or let's say e-commerce, e-commerce now also has a lot of appetite. They know these companies are making losses, but they're still ready to go ahead. I'm desperately waiting for 2018 when the actual
Day of
the
reckoning.
way the whole industry is growing up and maybe
They are also
exploding or
reaching,
IP, whatever it happens. 2018 is going to be the best year for hardware startups.
Yes.
That is when a lot of VCs are going to think, oh shit.
That's a good one.
So maybe if all of us are there by that time, maybe one of us is actually going to be the Elon Musk, and that is going to. So we have to inspire a lot of guys, right? So every startup has their own honeymoon period. Ours is over. These guys are in their honeymoon period right now. Within 3 years, the employees who are working with them, attrition is going to be really high. They are trying to solve world problems. We are trying to solve them. So is Intel, so is Qualcomm, so is Honda, so is BMW, so is Mercedes, right? And startups become the best grooming ground for these kind of engineers. We have trained more than 250 engineers. All of them are now working in Motorola, Samsung, and other packages which I can't match, right, ever. Maybe after 10 years from now. But as soon as the honeymoon period is gone, we'll have to figure out that what is it that we are going to do, and that is where the vision is going to come in. As he rightly said, that our vision is to be the Activa in India, right? So he has a very streamlined, very simple vision. So if that vision is there, then it's very easy. You know what is, for example, for us, what is Adam, what is Able, what is Clean, what is Eve. So we can actually work on that.
Final question, Kris and Manish. How do we ensure this? So we have a bunch of guys who are passionate, where it looks like, realistic hardware ideas. There are challenges. But in order for us to attract more entrepreneurs and make it space that people want to play in, how do you ensure that we create rock stars? How do you ensure that we create these poster boys? And may not be Elon Musk, but something close to that. Or what role can somebody like you play, or what else needs to be done?
So angel investors are still available. I think that's definitely possible. The number of angels are increasing. People are willing to take a bet on individuals, take a bet on an idea, however crazy that might be. It's really the seed and the seed A, Series A, that's the challenge. But that's when they look at using a thesis, using a model and things like that. So angel investing is possible in India. The number of angels are increasing significantly. Platforms like Let's Venture is actually making it very easy for crowdfunding to happen. And we need to have more such platforms and more angels coming forward to look at any idea. So any idea should get funded at this point, I feel, so that we give them a chance. Second, we need to make heroes of these companies, whether they succeed or fail.
Sure.
We have a tendency right now to highlight failures as somebody did something seriously wrong. I think we need to get away from that. Failures are a stepping stone for success, and failures are opportunities to learn. Anyway, even in e-commerce, probably only 1 out of 10 is going to succeed, or maybe 2 out of 10 is going to succeed. So we need to say the same thing about any startup at this point. And the 3, we need a lot more people coming in with deeper and deeper knowledge. Right now they are all training these people, that's okay. But if our education institutions can create larger numbers, some of them will join these companies, some of them will maybe even do a startup, and more number of startups come, more will succeed. Those are some of the things, and I think VC funding will come into this area because India is a large consumer market, and the numbers are there. So VCs will come into this space definitely. I'm convinced about it. We have to just wait for or be ready for the VCs to come.
Have you come across, Kris, come across an idea that you said, okay, this is a wild one and I want to bet on it? Will you be looking at something like that in future as a potential investment?
Definitely. This is something, not just me, there are many others also I know are looking at and supporting, etc. There's one more initiative which I'm very excited about, is to create a finishing school for hardware designers and hardware engineers, and a lab for prototyping and things like that. Now, it's just not the physical facility, but you have mentors who have done it, who have built it, so they can actually help in the lab. So that's something I'm excited about. I'm hoping that something like that will come up soon in Bangalore.
wanted to add two things to what you said. One is, I think creation of success stories is very important. Like you've seen in the non-hardware space, there are celebrated entrepreneurs now in India. So that sort of a thing needs to happen in the hardware. On the funding side, actually I feel, and I sort of disagree with you here, is I don't think there are enough angels supporting enough ideas. As I said, I'm evaluating on a personal level to invest into companies, and it is not becoming very easy to move those rounds. And I'm pretty sure that if they were non-hardware company with a similar value proposition, it would have moved. So the pace is different. So the funding today, what I'm seeing is that it is most dependent, and it's true to a large extent on a lot of things, but today the funding is happening because I know you, not because of what they are doing. So okay, I know him, so let me support him. But it has to move towards, little bit towards, okay, this is the product, and therefore it can attract angels who don't know that entrepreneur, and they still be able to fund. So that situation is changing, but it is changing slowly.
The reason why I'm optimistic about funding is recently on Indian Angel Network, a dosa maker.
Yes, dosa maker. Actually, a lot of
Within 5 minutes, round close.
Yeah, that's fast.
The inside story to that is it took 2 years for them to get to a point where it could close in 5 minutes. Because I was actually one of the investors in their first round pitch, which happened 1.5 years before they closed around. So it took so much time, it was almost like beerable khichdi,
They would rather believe in the 5-minute pivot for now. Thanks so much for being here. I think we really wish 3 of you become the rock stars, the role models that we need, and we will identify more. And like Kris also said, it's not just about success or failures. I think these products are different, so we also need to get a little more meaningful in tracking some of you, and we promise we will do that. Thank you so much for your time.